Joel P, Sparkplug here from Down Under. How are you? That's good. Now, I want to know what you would rather watch, Conor vs. Jorge or Conor Khabib 2? Because Dana keeps talking about Conor Khabib 2, but me and a lot of people I know would rather watch Conor vs. Masvidal. Your thoughts?
All right, Sparkplug. So I have to tell you, I like where your head's at, and I do like the parody, and we have seen Conor and Khabib once. So we would like the parody of Conor versus Masvidal, particularly if you bring the BMF title to the table, right? I mean, we're talking about some marketing and having some fun. Maybe you got to bring the belt to the table. Here's the concept that Dana has to take into consideration, okay? Dana has to wonder not only what fight do the fans want to see today, right now, in this moment. He has to attempt to project with a media tour, with a date, with a venue booked, what are fans going to want to see then? What are fans going to want to see after I promote it? And where's that going to lie? And then these are some of the factors that would build in there. Now, you don't get a ton of credit for being a wonderful matchmaker if you're telling me that Conor's going to go in there with Khabib or Conor goes in there with George Masvidal. I mean, you kind of got a Ferrari dropped in your lap and then a Lamborghini pulled up next to it, and now you got to point to which one you want. Those are both very special. I do think that there's some fun here at 170 pounds for Conor McGregor. I think that he's got to get by Cowboy, and that's probably the first thing that should happen, and then the Khabib talk can start, or the George Masvidal talk can start. Or right now, if you want my answer, which fight do I want to see more? I probably would go for the parody and say George Masvidal. But once we had some media and once we had some fun and we heard what Masvidal had to say about that, and then we heard what Khabib has to say about that, I think that that's the problem and that's the projection that has to be made by leadership, and who knows who else is going to come to the table. I've always thought as it pertains to Nick Diaz, and Nick was talking about coming in against George Masvidal, I mean, a lot of reason why that was so exciting, because you had Big Brother trying to redeem Little Brother. That storyline makes sense, and it resonates, and it works. But isn't the same storyline true if Nick Diaz wanted to come after Conor McGregor? I mean, now I think we're just having fun. Now we're just throwing things at the wall with a ton of good options. I only offer you that to try to present for you, yeah, Khabib, George, Masvidal, in his relation to Conor McGregor, great options. But there's other options out there too. It's a fun time to be a fight fan.
Uncle Chael, for a while now, you've been saying that when fighters move up in weight, they find success, but it doesn't seem that way because Jacare, Weidman, and Rockhold all went up and lost their fight. Convince me, expand on your thoughts a little bit, because to me it seems like they just get lazy and comfortable because they don't have to cut weight.
Well, I stand by the theory that it is not a size advantage, it is a size disadvantage. However, recent evidence and of the athletes that you just named, yeah, it pokes a bit of a hole in the boat of that argument. And I will just tell you, in combat athletics, the hardest guy you'll ever compete with is the guy from one weight class below you, okay? Use college wrestling by example. The 84-pounder, 184-pounder, his hardest match is going to be with the 174-pounder. And the 174-pounder's hardest match is going to be with the 165-pounder. Now, don't mistake that for the 174-pounder changing his body and becoming a 184-pounder. That is where my theory always seems to have problems, okay? I'm talking about the guy who still weighs 174 pounds and then bumps up to 184. And now he's a little bit faster and he's not carrying that around. And he can just go a little bit harder, a little bit longer because he doesn't have that size and weight on him. Now, if the 174-pounder goes and bulks up and all of a sudden he weighs 184, the same as the 84, but it's not the same argument. And I will tell you, with Weidman and Rockhold, these guys filled into 205 pounds. And perhaps I'm re-engineering this because my great theory of a size advantage and disadvantage has a little bit of a problem right now. But it does seem that way to me very much. I mean, really, when I do watch some of those smaller guys, I love to use the example of Muhammad Ali, who was the heavyweight champion, but in his prime weighed 198 pounds. Or the great Mike Tyson, who in his prime weighed 220 pounds. Mike Tyson never had a reach advantage or a weight advantage on any opponent ever. But we always hear about reach advantage and size advantage instead of calling it the disadvantage. It's just one of these things. I mean, I think even if you went back a little bit further, I think it would strengthen my argument if you were to look at Stipe Miocic, who weighed in at 231 pounds when he fought for the heavyweight championship, was a 2.5-to-1 dog, and left there with the title. I mean, 231 pounds is a very small heavyweight. Cain Velasquez was right around that 240 range. It's very rare that you find a 265-pounder in boxing or in MMA. You can do it. They exist. They are out there. Brock Lesnar's of the world, they are out there. But for the most part, it has always gone to the lighter guy. If I was going to go back to Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather hammered that contract home until he got it written down 153 pounds for whatever reason, because when Floyd showed up to the scale, he only weighed 148. He still spotted 5 pounds away. There's always seemed to be something. But Floyd didn't weigh 148 and look at the contract as 153 and go, okay, great, I can let my body balloon up. He was still the smaller guy. He was still the lighter guy. He was still able to move a little faster and get to that target a little bit more. I stand by my theory, but I will concede, confronted with recent evidence, you've posed a bit of a problem to it.
What's up, Chael? Big fan. Fan for a long time. So my question for you is, do throwing foot stomps actually have any kind of an effect on a fight? I've watched fights for a long, long time, and I can't remember a fight in which anything was actually affected by throwing a foot stomp.
I can tell you they're very annoying. It is one of these things, a foot stomp, because the bones in your foot are a little bit small. And when somebody's stomping and crushing on top of them, even if you were to break a bone, and this might sound very barbaric to you, but even if you were to break a bone in a fight, it's not going to hurt you all that bad. This isn't going to be a great thing, but it's not going to hurt you all that bad. Nothing really in a fight is going to hurt you all that bad. Now, I will tell you, the next day, once you cool down, once that adrenaline's gone, when you go to get out of bed in the morning and you can't move, that's a very real thing. But for the most part, no, a foot stomp really just bothers a guy. I've never seen a guy take some damage, even after the fact. I've never seen a guy with his foot all swollen up or has to go and get a cast on it because somebody stomped on his foot. But it is a very annoying thing. Chris Lieben actually brought that to the sport. I can remember the first time he did it. We were teammates. I've never seen him do it in practice, never heard him talk about it, never heard an announcer use the word foot stomps. Lieben pushes a guy in the cage and just starts ramming his heel into the top of the guy's foot. And the announcer was like, oh my gosh, that looks like it really hurts. And I remember being at home going, yeah, I bet that really hurts. I started doing it. We all started doing it. It was practice. You get in there, you stomp on a guy's foot, push him against the fence, raise a knee up and hit him in the thigh. I mean, a few of these things are just things that you're doing. Maybe it's to aggravate your opponent. You don't love the position. You start stomping on his foot. It starts to make him move his foot. It can open up a different position. There's different reasons why you would do techniques in a fight other than to just end the fight. They're not all fight-ending techniques. With that said, I don't suggest that you go and drop something on your foot. You're going to find out it hurts.
Hey, Chael. My name is Benjamin. I'm a student in Canada representing Nigeria. We're taking over the UFC. Just had to put it out there. Anyways, my question is about Kelvin Gastelum. I feel like Kelvin Gastelum isn't using social media to the best of his, he's not using his social media platform really effectively. Because I feel, I don't know why Darren Till is in conversation for a world title. He didn't. Let's not forget KG was actually imitated him, but that was about it. There was no special spark in there that that looked like a world beater or anything like that. So I don't see why a conversation for Kelvin Gastelum Darren Till rematch isn't trending right now. What do you think about that, Chael?
So many people did not like the Till Gastelum matchup. Many didn't agree with the decision. They thought that Gastelum won. Now, I was very biased to Gastelum. I'll always be biased to Gastelum. I thought that Till won. I thought Till edged him out 2 rounds to 1. I didn't have a problem with the decision. It surprised me how many people did. I mean, that building booed, headlines had come out, and then Kelvin, to your point, you brought up his social media, so I assume that your question is, why isn't he making more of a fuss? That's not how he does it. He's a competitor, first and foremost. If that leads him to world championships and major fights in Madison Square Garden, good for him, he'll take it, but that's just not, he just wants to compete. That's just how his mind works. So even if he went on social media, for him to stir up some trouble, he's just a nice guy with a really good skill set. He's a handsome guy. He's a fun guy. That's just not who he is, and I don't think he's ever going to go create those problems. I do hear what you're saying, though, as you're talking specifically maybe a rematch of Gastelum versus Till. I think that Till is going to go do other things, but I also think that Kelvin's going to have something special. Kelvin's next fight is going to be a great fight. All of his previous fights have been. I mean, what was the deal with Till? I know that Kelvin went off as a big favorite, but he goes into a favorite on a main card at Madison Square Garden. I mean, there's always something cool in a Kelvin fight. His fight before that is a main event for the World Championship. I mean, there's always something on a Kelvin fight. He was in Australia before that. He was supposed to fight for the title out there, and he's got the belt, and Whitaker calls him. I mean, Gastelum has been in a great spot for a meaningful period of time. I don't know that I would advise him to do anything different. It appears that he's kind of got his own career figured out. He's kind of got his fan base energized. He seems to have the respect of the offices. He seems to end up in the right places at the right time. So I do agree with you. I do agree he doesn't do social media, and he doesn't throw a stink up like a lot of guys. I think that's a fair observation by you. But I think we might be wrong to try to correct a guy whose last fight was at MSG and fight before that was for a world championship.
Chael, my question is simply this. When does a casual cease to be a casual? Having been to 4 events this year, Vancouver, New York, DC, and most recently Vegas, having met along the way Dan Margliata, Tyron Woodley, been introduced to your show, met Ariel Hawani at his podcast taping in Las Vegas. We've watched pretty much every pay-per-view this year. When do we transition from casuals to something more?
The transition from a casual fan to something more, generally known as the hardcore fan, okay? Now, if you're watching all of the pay-per-views, if you're meeting people and knowing who they are to recognize them, if you're going onto the internet searching for content such as this show, and now you're participating in the show via fan question, my friend, you are officially hardcore.
Hey, what's up, Chael? Quick question. So last week's fights, everyone kept referring to Max Holloway and Jose Aldo as the featherweight greatest of all time. And I just have a slight problem with that because Conor McGregor knocked out Aldo in 15 seconds. He beat Holloway 30-26, dominated him. McGregor also made quick work of Poirier and the other top featherweights at the time. 8-0 at featherweight, I'm pretty sure. And, I don't judge greatness by title defenses. When I think of Muhammad Ali, I don't count his title defenses. I think he beat the best of his era, Joe Frazier, George Foreman. That's why he's the best. So if Conor McGregor beat the best featherweights of his era, then I believe that makes him the best featherweight of all time. Your thoughts?
Oh, definitely. You are correct on that. Yeah, one reason that always gets passed over and Conor doesn't win title of greatest featherweight, the only reason that happens is because he took himself out of featherweight, moved to lightweight, and had such success there. Now, I agree with you. That isn't fair. Just because a guy climbs one mountain and decides he's going to give himself a new and arguably bigger challenge, it should not discredit his previous works. You're spot on that. And yes, if you want to talk who the greatest featherweight to do featherweight fighting is, you're right. It is Conor McGregor.
Hello, Chael. Greetings from Greece. Love the video, love the channel. Huge fan. My question for you would be, what are the differences between a fighter that actually takes the time to put on the extra weight if he's about to fight in a bigger weight class? And what are the differences between a fighter that, for example, let's say he takes a fight in a few days' notice and he has to go for that weight immediately and not giving himself the time to adjust? Like, what do you earn? What do you lose in this situation? Because Conor's fight is at 170 now, and he's looking very muscular. He's looking a lot bigger than he used to be. So what can we expect from that?
Okay, so people will often give you the analogy when you're talking about fighters. They'll often tie it to a race car. Oh, your body's like a race car, and it's all about an engine, and whatever fuel you put in it, and you are what you eat. I've never got the you are what you eat. I've never turned into a Snickers bar. I've never turned into a T-bone steak. I've never seen anybody else do it. I don't have the foggiest idea what that means, but I acknowledge it must mean something. Because the expression you are what you eat has just been around for too long for it not to mean anything. But let me tie it in for you like this. You're asking the difference in a fighter that takes the time to put on the weight. I like the question and I get the question, but It's almost impossible to do, which is why so much is made of the weigh-in. It is so important for bettors and handicappers to get a guys on the scale and then face them off. And then look at how did they look the last time they were on the scale? And what did the numbers say the last time they were on the scale? It's very important to cross-reference those before you go and place your bet because of only one reason: what it takes to gain weight. How are you going to gain weight, good, honest, lean weight, if you're training? How? There's ways to do it, but this becomes the problem, and this becomes what guys want to know. Look, how did you put on 20 pounds in the last 3 months when you're leading us all to believe you've been working out twice a day, every day, 6 days a week, and taking Sunday off? That's what your media said. That's what you've promised us all. You've promised all of us to watch this fight because you've never been better. You've never worked harder. So now I just want to know, in return, how did you gain 20 pounds while working out 4 hours a day? And it's a very fair question for me to ask, because those two don't work. They don't go hand in hand. I've been to GNC since I was 12 years old. I've tried everything on the shelf. On the off chance something did, and guess what? Thousands of dollars later, it doesn't. It's all crap. It's calories in to calories out. So if I want to gain weight, it's not a matter of I can just eat more. I'm going to have to work out less. If I want to lose weight, it's not a matter of I could just eat less. I've now got to work out more. You guys will always hear this term diet and exercise, but most of you will try just one. You'll either try to change your diet or you'll try to add some exercise. It's diet and exercise in that order. So if a guy puts on X amount of weight, we have to wonder which one did he give up, the diet or the exercise?